Hi guys, this is Nadia Hilker. I'm playing Magna on The Walking Dead, and you guys are listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and I'm sending you all my love. Bye!
Hello, my name is Cassie McClincy. I play Lydia on The Walking Dead, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. Yeah!
Hey there guys, I'm Callan McAuliffe and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
Hey, I'm Lindsley Register and I play Lara on The Walking Dead. You're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
Hey, this is Ross Marquand and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. Awesome.
Hello and welcome to episode 157 of The Walking Dead Talk Through Dead City Edition. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm LT.
And tonight we will be covering the season finale of The Walking Dead Dead City Edition. Well, it's not edition. It's edition for us. Anyway, The Walking Dead Dead City Season 1, Episode 6, titled Doma Smo. And we don't really have any feedback or anything to discuss, so we'll go right into the episode. Doma Smo is written by Eli Jorne and directed by Gandja Monteiro. Is that how you say the name? Anyway.
I think so, yeah.
Anyway, I think some ganja was smoked. Anyway. The description from YouTube TV is tensions between Maggie and Negan come to a head. Anyway, Ginny's search continues. Questions arise around Armstrong's path forward. All right. We are going to start with Kyle.
Hey.
We're going to have you go first.
Alrighty. Well, actually, this was not... I guess I had last episode kind of low too, but I gave it a 5. I'm more of a gin man out of 10. Just didn't hit the spot.
I could see that. LT?
Well, I was feeling a little more generous this week. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. You went to New York City and all I got was this toe in a box.
And myself, I liked it more than last week. And thankfully, I've said for years now, a show has to reach a minimum of 7 for me to want to keep doing a show. So thankfully, it did reach a 7 this week, but no more. So I said 7, better than last week, but it was all just a setup for next season. And unfortunately, I'm not that excited about what I see for next season. So I give it 7 stubbed or detached toes out of 10, or 7 snubbed Croats.
Yeah.
Poor Croat.
Oh, poor Croat.
All right, so we have some listener ratings. Kyle, why don't you start it off?
All right. First one comes from Glennis from Toronto, and she gives it a 7 out of 10. And this little piggy cried, wee, 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 all the way home.
And we also got feedback from Ivan from Minnesota, who said 5 out of 10. I would have preferred a Savers prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, we don't have any next, so
Nope.
Let's move on to Awesome Sauce.
All right. Well, first one comes from Glennis from Toronto, and her awesome sauce is this time around was the teaser trailer during the show of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. And she little smiley face emoji. Just can't wait for that series of the Rick and Michonne saga to continue. Yep.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm. That was not the same one that they showed during Comic-Con, right? That was just a shorter version. I didn't get to catch it.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't. I'm not sure what they showed at on the during the show.
Yeah, it seems shorter than what I just didn't get a chance to watch it. But anyways, yeah.
Yes, and due to circumstances beyond my control, I didn't see the trailer either. So,
okay.
I am trailerless.
I have seen the trailer one time, but I mean there wasn't a lot to it. I mean, it is a show that I am certainly, very excited for, and we'll see how it goes.
Yep,
indeed. All right. Well, we got some more awesome sauce from Ivan from Minnesota, who says, "Jeffrey is great as usual. I was happy Maggie got her son back. I think if Maggie is able to put her anger for Negan to rest, and there is some sort of final resolution, this series might be worth it."
But we'll have to wait, because that's in season 2.
And we will have to wait.
All right, so it's time for our own, and I only have one. Like, even though my rating was higher, I had issues with this episode. So there's only really one thing that I want to highlight that I kind of liked, and that was the Croat and Negan reminiscing over the old times, and the Croat kind of telling the story about grabbing Lucille and, how he didn't know what he was doing and all of that. I like that story enough to put it in awesome sauce, but it would be more like okay sauce. It wasn't it. I put it in there only because it was something that no one else mentioned. I didn't see anyone mention it. And if they did, it would have been later on. And that's my take.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, because I feel like there's been moments during this season of having that, them talking about, basically what we saw way back when in the main show, and just like those little kind of bringing us back a little bit. Well, that was enjoyable, and I liked that. But yeah, just the rest of it kind of started going a little weird.
Yeah, because it's not so much awesome at this point. It's just positive sauce.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. It was positive sauce. Like, I like the kind of texturing of the, it is, and it is kind of funny because the Croat is obviously an older guy than Negan, and yet there's this hey, Daddy, you remember the story about when you gave me the bat, and I didn't fully understand what it meant at the time, but now I get it. And, it was such an honor, Negan, he's got this hero worship kind of thing. And, yeah. But I have more to say about all of that later on in Sasai. And in fact, I am using a sauce that I never use. So, anyway.
Indeed.
LT, what about you? What do you have for awesome sauce tonight?
Well, I started off with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, that I've enjoyed his portrayal of Negan. I think that if there's a bright spot to this, is just seeing his range playing Negan.
Mm-hmm.
To where he can go from this is the Negan we hate to this is the Negan we like to this is the Negan we hate again. And sometimes it's very obvious and sometimes it's very subtle just by posture and facial expressions and just some of the stuff that he did. It's like we've discussed before when Negan has his strong moments when you're going, well, obviously he's gotten better and he's redeemed. And then you have those old moments of Negan shining through, except now I think we have some to steal your word, texture on it, we kind of see why he's doing it.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just say that I'm kind of stealing from Larry Nemechek when I say that, because he likes to say texture, not, trivia.
Yeah. So definitely, wanted to include just some praise at this point for Jeffrey Dean Morgan's performance. I thought it was pretty, and again, just because, not that it's awesome, but it seems to be a positive. The fact that even after all this time, Negan was offered a franchise that apparently, his name and his carriage still rates him a little bit of gravitas in the world of despotic rulers in the apocalypse. And the fact that it just seems like the whole point of getting him to New York was to say, we're opening a new Doma Smo franchise up north, and we want you to be the manager.
Yeah.
I included it in the awesomes just because of it didn't really fit anywhere else. And I will be going into this a little more later, but it's just really funny that it seems like that this is the Teenage Rebellion in the Apocalypse show, more so than the kids show, from the standpoint of Ginny was breaking the rules because she wanted to get back with Negan because she didn't like it in, Hilltop 2.0. And apparently, this is Herschel's equivalent of either joining a gang or, dyeing his hair and running off and becoming an emo musician. It just seems like that's going to be more of a plot point later. Mm-hmm. After all of our revelations that Herschel was not so much a victim as perhaps a willing participant in his abduction. And just by the toe in the box, it seems like that, maybe his loyalties are going to be questioned later on of whose side he's really on. Mm-hmm. And I'm finishing up with my awesome sauce to say I just knew that this wasn't going to be 6 and out.
Yeah.
I just had that feeling.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't going to be 6 and out for sure. Oh.
No,
but yeah, the fact that it just seemed like that this was going to end up being not just a mini series of 6 episodes, but this was going to be the start of a new series.
Yeah.
Because, they were pretty cagey with it for a while, that they're like, oh, it's a mini series. Well, it's a mini series of multiple seasons, apparently.
Mm-hmm. I never got that impression, but then again, I wasn't really paying as close attention to it as probably you guys did. But I mean, I always thought that this was a series, not a mini series. Like the Rick and Michonne one, if that turns out to be a series, that I'm going to be surprised about. From my knowledge, that is a limited series and it's just 6 episodes and out and they're done. That's my understanding of it. If it turns into a multi-series or multi-season series, then, depending on how good it is, I will hopefully jump for joy or, not be too enthused about it, but I'm hoping the former, not the latter. But this one I always suspected was a multi-season. So,
well, that's not the way it was played up in the beginning.
Right.
Maybe
think that was it.
Maybe nothing. That's the way that it did. They didn't really indicate they were going to do more when it very first started. And it just seems like that it's kind of a surprise, not surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I had, maybe they had indicated that it was going to be a 6 episode season, but I never got the impression that it was a mini series, but
Well, that's why
you did that. And that doesn't mean that I'm right and you're wrong. That means that we just got different impressions of it. But yeah, that's my take.
Yep.
And you could say you are wrong, sir. It did say this, and I will accept that. So
yeah. Oh well, I mean, anyways,
I think it's you, Kyle.
Yes, it is you.
Yep.
It's you.
Well, I'm going to kind of go with the positive sauce because it was kind of, I mean, there was just good elements, and also there wasn't really anything that was like awesome, but kind of following along with what you were saying, Brian, like just the reminiscing between the Croat and Negan. And I thought that like that part of like that story that Negan or Maggie was telling to Negan just about New York, and like, you know, it wasn't because of Statue of Liberty, but it was because of Macy's. And then she was talking about how like her dying mom was just telling her about the real Santa Claus would come down and be at that Macy's to meet all the children. And so she was just telling the story how like she always like she wanted to come visit New York to go to Macy's and meet the real Santa, you know. And it just in that little scene there, it was just I really enjoyed it because it was just once again then like we're getting a little bit more of like connections to the past or reminiscing about stuff, and then she would also seem like at that point she was opening up to Negan a little bit, and then of course in the end she kind of like points down, she's like, and then like she points down that she just said like, and then there it is, you know, it's like, and then you see basically like, you know, the you know, the ZA, just the reality of everything. And I don't know, we're at this, like, we're so far into this, you know, universe, and just having these moments of like the character kind of sharing stuff that you would also I think would also feel, where it's like, man, it must seem like it's like forever since they even remember what it was before all this started. And then so it just, I don't know, I really kind of enjoyed those little moments that they have, and they've done a couple of it, you know, during the season, but just in the other shows in general, it's like I like to kind of see where, you know, some of our, you know, characters that we've pretty much grown up with now, you know, and then kind of experience through their feelings in their eyes of like, oh yeah, like here you are actually coming to New York for the first time, and it was always kind of your dream to like, oh, come visit Santa Claus, but then you're kind of faced with that reality of like, yeah, that old world is gone and it's never going to ever come back, and you're like looking down with it with your own eyes, you know, and just having that little moment. So I don't know, I really enjoyed that part of it. Again, the visuals of the New York, like in ruins, like I loved that part of this whole season. It was just giving us something a little different, because like, you know, we've talked about where it's like, you know, the main show, you know, we were in Atlanta, we were in like the, you know, the forest, you know, there was just like lots of woods, and, you know, not too many cities, just, you know, here and there, like, you know, Alexandria, I guess they went up to DC or whatever to like get stuff, but it was like just really the visuals of what's like seeing like, oh, like all the skyscrapers all in these like about falling apart, or like old cranes of like where they were building it, and then it just really, I don't know, it was really, really, really cool. And there was one scene where like I think Maggie and Herschel were talking in the car at the end, and then it cuts to a shot of like the back of the Statue of Liberty, and it's just got like its arm is like missing all the copper, and so it's just like the, you know, the frame of it and the back, you know, and it's just, I don't know, it's part of one of the things I've always enjoyed about watching kind of these types of like this genre is like seeing what it would look like with what we're seeing in our life, just of like a normal world, to actually see these iconic images of like the Statue of Liberty, like basically falling apart, you know, and it's been just, everything's gone, you know, and there's no more humans, or, you know, like very, very few. So I don't know, that's, I think they did a good job with that, and I enjoyed it. And then the last, I guess this could be kind of an awesome sauce, even though it's kind of mean, was just like Negan telling Ginny off when she like finally says like her first words.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, yes, I get it's like it was kind of like a mean and not a great scene of what he was doing. But, you know, we've all wondered, like, what the heck is the point of Ginny? And then it's like, and here it is, you know, it's like we find out Negan killed her dad. And I'm assuming it was one of the 5 guys that beat up his wife, Annie. And that's what, you know, the marshal was after him for and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then, so we finally got this connection of like, what the heck was she even doing there? It's because he was kind of seeing her as a debt to pay off and trying to, you know, I guess felt bad that like, it's not like that he knew that who Ginny was beforehand, but it was like, obviously he has that experience of like, I've killed people's loved ones, and he was trying to do something, I guess, to take care of her. But again, it was just like, and then she storms off and then goes with the Armstrong to go back to whatever, I guess, the Hilltop 2.0, but
New Babylon.
Yeah. But it was just, again, Jeffrey D. Morgan, like, just his acting, and he was just like, what the hell? And it was, he just blew up, just like, are you serious? Like, you're now going to talk to me when I've been trying to just keep you safe. And it was just like, okay, fine. I'm throwing that out there. Just, you need to run. And I don't care if you hate me for the rest of your life. It's like, you're getting out of here so that you're not going to die. It was just good.
Yeah, we just brought up a point that I wanted to ask about, because I brought up something before we started recording, but something else that I was a little confused about. When we see Maggie at the end, she's at Hilltop 2.0, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So what's her name is at Hilltop 2.0. She's not at New Babylon, but then Pearlie goes back to New Babylon, right?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So I guess that's how it went down, that he brought her to Hilltop 2.0 and then drove from there to New Babylon. And I guess that they're close enough so that he could drive from, you know, just outside of New York City to Hilltop 2.0, and then from Hilltop 2.0 to New Babylon on one tank of
gas,
methane, whatever. You know.
Yeah, that's kind of...
Well, we don't know exactly where Hilltop 2.0 is, and so it could be closer. And New Babylon, necessarily, we don't know what their whole structure is. They could be like, oh yeah, Hilltop's just another community that's like we're trading with, or we're, you know, they're fine. And, you know, it's like we don't know exactly, because didn't Maggie say something about like, oh yeah, it just got a little crazy at Hilltop, so we moved. And so it's like, but where did they move to? Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, well,
I would say they moved up the
like further
up
north,
the coast.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Once again, playing fast and loose with distance.
Yep.
Yeah. And time.
Yeah. And time.
Yeah. That's what they do.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
All right.
At least no one woke up in Mississippi.
True.
All right. So let's move on to our weak sauce.
You're worthless and weak.
Okay, so our first is Glynis from Toronto. Who wants to take that one?
I'll do it.
All right.
So Glynis from Toronto says, expected more fire and action for a Walking Dead Universe Season 1 finale. But there was mainly emotional interchanges, and it was getting set up for the various plots for Season 2. With both Maggie looking at the drawings by Herschel of the Doma, making her wonder what she had put into being, and Negan realizing they'd assisted in empowering a very new baddie in the Doma, who is much worse than the Croat, and Armstrong need to answer his leaders in New Babylon, with them interested in the methane raw material. And with that very good and fancy face-off of the Negan-Maggie face combo at the end of the episode showing their despair and concern. AMC must stop showing so much of the Daryl series trailers. Leave some of it to be watched and surprised by. And bad CGI when Negan and Maggie walk past that one building. Come on, AMC and production company, you can do better than that.
Yeah, I wonder which building that was. I guess it was when they were walking the street, and there was I kind of remember I saw it, and I was kind of like, there's an interesting building, but I wasn't thinking it was bad CGI.
You know, it's kind of, I don't like the fact that this, baddie, the one pulling the chains behind the scenes is the Doma, and the episode and the Croatian word is Doma. I just don't like it.
Yeah, Doma.
Yeah. Dama.
No, it's I kept thinking of Doug Dimmadome from Fairly Odd Parents. But
yeah. Anyway.
All
right. Next,
I'll take this one as Ivan from Minnesota, and he says, "I still do not care about Ginny, Marshall, or Babylon. Personally, I thought this was a pretty boring finale. I think they could have done a lot more with the series, and I'm not that excited for season 2, sadly."
I agree, Ivan. I agree. I'm right there with you on this. I would pretty much say the same thing. I thought it was kind of boring. In fact, the fact that I gave it a 7 has, I think, more to do with performances and aesthetic. Like, I didn't really mention it, but yeah, I agree with the things that you said, Kyle. More than story. The story, for this to be a season finale episode, it seemed very much not even like a mid-season finale. It just seemed like I don't know.
This is where we stopped.
Kind of. It seemed like it could have been, I don't know, the second to last episode more than anything. I mean, I just don't, there's not enough there for me to, really be clamoring for the next season of this show. I mean, the performances are pretty much, are better than the story. Like, I thought, well, I'm not going to say it because I think, LT, you mentioned it somewhere in your comments. I saw it, so I'm going to let you say it when time comes. But yeah. Anyway, all right. So now it's time for a weak sauce. And again, I don't have much to say, so I'm going to say the two things that I'm going to say, and then turn it to you guys. I didn't like the fight at all. I thought that, and in fact, I'm going to mention this fight in several sauci, because it just, or the fight, or an offshoot of the fight in other sauces, because I just didn't like it. Like, it seemed too contrived. It seemed like, this is an episode where we're finally going to have a fight. And, I just don't, I don't, it just doesn't make sense to me that she would try to fight him like this. Like, she's smarter than that. Like, if she wanted him dead, wouldn't she just kill him and not end up in a fight to the death? Like, it just, that part of it, but also it just didn't make sense to me. The plot doesn't make sense to me. And I'll say more about that in the other sauces, but I didn't like it. So the fight itself, like, if I had to say something positive about it, and if I throw that into positive sauce, like we were calling it this week, I liked Negan's kind of reaction to it. But a second weak sauce that I don't have kind of listed there is, it seemed like Negan got stabbed during the the fight, but
Yes,
then
he
we
did.
don't. Yeah, but then we don't see any kind of ramifications of the stabbing. Like, I didn't see him like tending to a wound or anything. It just seemed like it seemed like I don't know.
It was like, you're right. It's just like he got stabbed. He was like, ow. And then it was like, okay, then later on it's like, okay, that nothing happened.
I don't see him. I don't see him getting tended to his wound. I don't see any
Just
bandages.
It's the coach thing. Just walk it off, man.
Yeah.
Walk it off.
Or maybe he had his iPhone in his pocket, and so it actually ricocheted, like it didn't go through.
It's a flesh wound.
Yeah.
But even a flesh wound, needs bandages,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it was for all it was built up to be, it was just very low speed, low energy. It's like the last scene you have to do at the end of the day, and everybody would just kind of half stepping because it really wasn't all that fighty in places.
no. And in a lot of ways, like the most fighty part was, Maggie not really jumping off, but kind of like falling off to the side onto that.
Yeah, when he threw her off
spongy,
the thing on
mattressy thing. Yeah.
Oh, like when he chucked her off the roof onto the boxes, it definitely had the telltale signs of one of those. You're tied to a cable and you've been yoinked.
Yeah.
Yes, I noticed that too. Actually,
It wasn't like he actually threw her butt off a balcony. It was just kind of like yoink.
Yep.
the trajectory did not look like he
didn't
had
throw
been
her
thrown. Yeah,
He didn't throw her that hard and that way. That's like
Yeah.
it's like he threw her like a javelin.
Well, yeah, but like the trajectory that we saw, it almost looked like she changed trajectory in the middle, like she was being pulled by a cable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because in reality, she was being pulled.
Exactly. They usually do a better job at covering that up, but they didn't cover it up. So that's a second aspect of the contrivance of it. But just the story around it, it wasn't a good fight scene. It wasn't a very well choreographed fight scene, hence the trajectory of and like Negan kind of looked like a superhero jumping onto the same boxes.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, Negan can really jump there. So I don't know, that the whole thing, I have so much to say. This is probably where 80% of the things that I'm going to say about this episode, other than agreeing with you guys, has to do with the fight. I just didn't like the fight at all.
Yeah, that's what this was part of my weak sauce, was because it all felt so clunky.
Yeah.
And it just felt very like, and I actually was thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this, it's almost like what we were seeing in Fear, where it was just, things just didn't quite match. And I didn't feel like Maggie even knew like how to even fight with a knife. It was just like she was taking these large swings, and it was just like, it just seemed so out of place. And then even getting up to the fight too, you're right. It's like, we just saw like two scenes in the beginning or in the earlier of her looking like, and she was showing it in her face of like, she's either kind of coming to terms or kind of like having some sympathy or like some realization about like of what Negan's going through. And like, she looked like she was coming down off it, to all, like even the scene right before the fight, like it just looked like all of a sudden she just like went into like, I have crazy eye modes. And like, she looked like she had just got caught, and was in trouble, and then was like, oh no, now I'm supposed to start like attack. It would just,
But that's the thing. She wasn't even in trouble. Like,
right.
That's what I didn't understand. The whole thing, I don't understand. And I have so much more to say about this point, but I decided not to put it all in weak sauce. I decided there was too much there. I thought we can get a lot of sauce out of this. So I thought, well, I'm going to say a sauce here and a sauce there. And I never put sauce here, but I'm going to say it here. So anyway, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The second thing, and we can talk more about it when you guys say your piece, but so this is something else I'm going to mention in more than one sauce, but New Babylon suddenly is now the enemy of the Doma group, whatever they're calling themselves. The
Schmoes.
No, there's a name. There's a Croatian name.
The Ben.
Whatever, it works for me. They're the Schmoes.
The Schmoes. Okay. Might as well just call them that. Anyway, so they're just looking for a fight for fuel, and I thought, like, so essentially, what you've got is you could have made a case for New Babylon, kind of maybe being slightly misunderstood, maybe slightly, maybe they'll be influenced by Hilltop, maybe Hilltop will become a part of New Babylon and they'll influence them and become better. But, instead it's just it's basically, we're going to grab the fuel now. And there's so many issues with that, that, like, instead of going after the fuel that's in Manhattan, isn't the real thing to try to, like, I don't know, steal the technology or get the formula for the fuel so that they could power the vehicles? And don't they already have vehicles in New Babylon that we already saw? So, like, I don't know, maybe they're trading with them. I don't know. But, like, okay, so it's just, I just was kind of like, this is old shit. I don't need to hear this stuff. This does not really make me very excited about the next season. It's the battle for fuel,
Take
like,
Town 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not real excited about the direction here. So
yeah, because all of this feels like we've been here before.
Yeah, well, we have, but at the same time, like, it's kind of like New Babylon is kind of being targeted as, like, well, it's like Alexandria, the Hilltop, and the Kingdom, but they want all of the Savior's resources. So they're bad guys, essentially.
Yeah.
And because our people never try to, steal from the Saviors or, take over the Saviors. They just wanted to, have their own independence, So the way that they're going about this, that they're, it's almost kind of like mustache twirling for that person that should have been Michelle Hurd, but I'll get to that in a minute. So for that to just, I don't know, I was very disappointed in that direction for the show. So that's what I'll say. And let's move on. LT, what do you have for weak sauce?
Basically, this episode gave us our end game for the first bit.
Yes.
So that basically this whole contrivance of Maggie going to get Negan was basically the zombie apocalypse version of Monster.com. They were just trying to recruit him for this franchise, and Maggie was the mechanism by which they could, force Negan to come with the pretense of Herschel.
Yeah.
Because after everything's said and done, since we found out that the Croat really didn't steal the grain, then he really didn't kidnap Herschel. So there's some shenanigans going on there. And it just seems like the whole purpose of Maggie doing what she did was just for them to find a way to get Negan to New York.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you're talking about the marshal the way you did. The thing that I saw with the marshal is Marshall, after the little scene in the mayor's office, it basically smelt like to me that they're setting up Pamela Milton 2.0. And this is new Babel wealth. And just very much the, deja vu all over again, that we've got a community with a conniving mayor and, some sort of stratified legal system to control the populace. And their whole thing is they want to invade Manhattan for the methane. So, it just very much felt like we're back to the Commonwealth scenario again. And while I agree with you on one part that why couldn't they just get the technology, I think that if you look at it from the expansionist standpoint, that they're basically trying to create gather in another community somehow that would be basically, the outpost or their tank town or however you want to spin it. And it just very much, like I said, very much felt like that they basically took the page from the Commonwealth script and whited out the names and did a little juggling, a little cut and paste, because it felt very, very much like Commonwealth again. For Maggie, we've already talked about how schizophrenic she's been, that, 1 minute she's, sort of the remorseful heroine that we sort of like. And then she turns into, I've got to kill Negan. And it just seems like that there was no really rhyme or reason. It's like, well, we're going to get along until the next time I have a break and decide to kill you. And it just seemed like that was the ongoing thing with her, that 1 minute they're fine, the next minute she's trying to kill him. Then they're fine, and then she tries to kill him again. And part of it is, I understand. Your son ran away and he joined a gang in New York. And maybe she's blaming Negan for that. I don't know. It just seems like that's going to be another plot complication down the road, because I have a feeling that Herschel is going to run off again. I'm still, and just the side note to that is I'm still sort of weirded out by the toe in a box. So the question that I have is, since she had a whole ring of keys, does that mean she's got a stack of boxes of toes?
Yeah.
It just, I don't know if I'm ready for a villainess with a foot fetish, but, and I guess after all this happened, it was pretty obvious to me that this last episode was the setup for the next 6. It's like, this wasn't a cliffhanger. This really wasn't a season finale, as we've said. This was just pretty much episode 0 of season 2. So it sort of makes me feel like the last episodes that we've endured was just getting us here to get this storyline set up. That for all the stuff that we went through and all the things that we did and all the people we met and all the people that died needlessly, all our scampering about New York was just basically to set all of this up. And the people that were there were only there because they had to be there in order to set things up. It's like we had said about, I'm sure they're going to drag Ginny back and she's going to have some big revelatory thing to do in all this.
And hopefully say more than 4 words.
Right.
That's true. Will she end up actually being Negan's Aunt May? We don't know. The whole reason the marshal was there is they had the scene in the office makes me think that it wasn't so much he was trying to be the due diligent lawman and track Negan down. It also had more of an air of a recon mission, that it sort of negated all the fact that he was chasing Negan for these warrants, that it seemed like that the whole point of him was finding out about the Croats methane farm. And
well, Whether or not he realized that, I mean, it certainly seemed to, you know, in the case of the mayor or whatever you want to call her, that seemed to be the only thing that she really cared about.
Indeed.
With the unveiled threats of, you know, oh, your family, blah, 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 you know, which I just was like, oh, okay, well,
which again,
clearly
that's what gave me such strong Pam vibes.
Yeah.
Because we're back to, you know, the whole thing of, you know, it'd be a shame if your little girl had an accident.
Yes. Exactly.
So, and I guess the last thing I'm going to throw here, and I'm going to come back to this one, but it just seemed like to me that the Doma had a lot of really, really serious Game of Thrones vibes going on. And it just, I think at this part of the apocalypse, to me, it just felt a little ridiculous that somebody would still have that much clean, tidy stuff in the midst of all the collapse that we've seen and all the crap happening. And it just seemed not necessarily largely out of place, but it just didn't quite fit in with the fact that, you know, this is not, it's been going on for 5 years or 6 years. It's been, the ZA has been in flight for quite some time now, you know, and for her to have the whole, you know, sheer drapey boudoir and the books and just her in general, I'm just going, you know, something's a little off here.
Yeah. What's the deal with all those people kind of like, I don't know if they're tripping or being high in the audience there? I didn't understand that either.
Oh,
well, and see, that's the other part of it that just, like I said, the whole fact of what is your gang just all the, you know, all the buskers and all the street moms and all the people that survived that used to be performers and now they're just weirding out, you know, getting their post-apocalypse concert on. It just, like I said, the whole thing with her just seems so
contrived,
weirdly discordant from everything else.
Yeah.
Yes.
That, not, like I said, if you want to argue contrived, I mean, we could probably argue lots of things being really contrived. I'm just kind of saying that that's a given with some of this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it just seemed oddly out of place.
Yes.
Because every other leader we've seen has been, you know, kind of the strong arm type leader. And she just seems a little too ethereal to be a badass. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, she seems like the power behind the throne kind of thing to me. And, you know, that's fine. And perhaps we haven't seen an enemy like that. But at the same time, if she has the power behind the throne, who gave it to her? And,
right.
You know,
right. And how does she maintain it? And
how does she maintain it? Yeah, that's part of what I don't understand. And, you know, I go back to the thing that we saw, you know, in that very, very short scene with that, you know, I don't know her character's name. I don't even think we got it, but the, you know, larger black lady and, you know, her kind of dressing down the Croat. And, you know, there was a continuation of that when the Croat brought Negan to the Doma. You know, clearly the Doma had no interest whatsoever in including the Croat in that meeting, that initial meeting. And, you know, very much like, you know, okay, thank you. Now go away. You bother me kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
and even the Dama said something about like, you know, I'm glad that you're not like the psychosis of you know, a deranged mind or something like that,
Right.
like that you actually exist, and you know that kind of just goes to show you what she really thinks of the Croat.
Yeah.
Not very highly, or that he's just a means to an end, you know.
He's useful.
Yeah, he's useful. You know, he probably was able to, you know, figure out the fuel issue from what, and not even anything that we've gotten any detail but it sounds like he's the one that came up with it, but still, I don't know.
Well, and I'll go back to my other argument. If you look at all the leaders we've had of all the other groups that, and successful or no in the end, I mean, you look at people like the governor, you know, look at Rick, Maggie, Ezekiel, you know, even Negan himself. All the leaders of groups tend to be strong, authoritarian type figures. And while she has part of that, she doesn't have, you know, to me, she doesn't strike me as the, you know, she's not the governor. She doesn't strike me as the super strong type leader that, you know, she's probably got very loyal goons, but I'm still wondering how she made loyal goons doing what she's doing. And this kind of goes into your point, Kyle, and I'll let you have it. But the point being for me is I just don't see how she's pulling off what she's doing, because, okay, if you want to make the argument about, say, England, you know, England has royalty. England has hereditary titles. So you could arguably say there's a degree of programming that titles mean something to English folk. They may or may not, but being an American in a titleless society, you know, generally people that are exalted and powerful are either, you know, rich or influential. And, you know, maybe she has influence, but it's the apocalypse. So I'm just trying to figure out what hook she has into people, how is she like the mafia don in all this?
Right.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I will concede the floor to you, Kyle.
I mean, you guys hit a lot of the same stuff that I was kind of I wanted to bring up, because it's like, just from the moment we met her to just even now, it's like she doesn't fit in, like the way she like talks, and it's like I even brought it up that it was like, oh, it's like she seems like a character off Gotham, you know. She's everything has some reference to drama or theater or something like that, and we get that like they're in this theater and she's like almost in her dressing room, and that's kind of her little deal. But then it's like, you know, she has this like, you know, has this really aristocratic like vibe coming off of her, and it just kind of really doesn't make any sense. And then you made a point too, Brian, that like it's like, well, yeah, it's like, well, then like there must be like, she obviously has some kind of power that is either someone's, you know, above her, like she's the voice of the throne, or, you know, the hand of the, you know, the throne or whatever. So it's like I guess we kind of, if maybe that's what they're trying to put in with that. We thought the Croat was kind of like the big baddie, but now we found out, oh no, it's this woman, the Dama, you know.
Well, it's kind of like the way I'm seeing it. It's like the Dama is the power behind the throne, the one that's really pulling the strings, the one that is really ruling the kingdom. But she has a puppet ruler, and that's the Croat. You know.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm seeing. I mean, obviously, I think the Croat has more going on than just a simple puppet, but nevertheless, you know, it's kind of like a weak vice president in a way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Or just, you know, he's the president, but the true power is in the chief of staff, or you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
but then again, though, that raises the question, though, too. It's just all like, well, then how did she even get to this position? Like, why?
That's what I don't understand either.
Right. It's like she does not look very like, oh, I am like a governor or somebody that is truly like, you can see where like they could be completely feared. She's hiding in her closet and somehow has all this power. And then she also is mentioning like there's these other communities up north or whatever, like near Harlem. So it's like, okay, so there's obviously other factions in this whole area of Manhattan or in the island or whatever. So it's like, so this must be just her part of it. And you know, it does. It's kind of like there's all these like little serfdoms around, you know, in this island, and she's kind of like maybe has a little bit more power because she got more people under her. But again, that is like, I get that kind of a setup, but then the way she acts makes zero sense in this show. Like no one would talk like that.
How is she the queen of Broadway?
Right. Like,
that's my way of looking at it too. Is like, how is she the queen of Broadway, and and you know,
and no one wants to touch her, you know.
Yeah.
The last thing that I put was basically kind of along this same line. You know, it's like, so the New Babylon, you know, like I thought it was like they almost like they didn't buy Armstrong's story about killing Negan, but then that's where we get to the point where it's like, no, they only cared about the methane. So it was like, so then, yeah, I guess was going after Negan just part of getting him to go to New York, or that was always the mission, or did Armstrong even know exactly what he was doing? But I'm calling it weak because it's like, I feel like the whole
few reasons.
Well, right, but I'm calling it weak because I felt like this whole show, like when we first heard about it, was supposed to be some crazy, dangerous, like, you know, place that it was like,
oh yeah,
like this was like the dark tower that was like, you go there, you die, and it's just the scariest thing ever. And like, I feel like in the beginning we got a few scenes, like even in episode 1, where, you know, they gave us these like herds of walkers, like I think they were like looking across from the, you know, the water, and you saw these just massive, you know, things, a walker just, you know, crossing, you know, basically heading down the street. So it's like, okay, this place just like is full of it. And then they get in there and they're falling from the sky. You know, it was like we got all this scariness, craziness going, but then like now it's like the streets are clear. Like you can get into a boat and like basically get across the water now, no problem. But before they're like go crossing it and it's full of walkers. And so I don't know,
driving through Manhattan, like it's nothing. Like where are all the zombies there?
Right.
You know?
And it turned into like, okay, they kind of threw this like, oh cool, look how cool this is. Like, oh, it's scary, to like, okay, now it's like, no, it's not. Everybody's running around totally fine. And I don't know, it just, that's where it got, it's like, okay, now this is where it's just getting boring, because it's just like
I thought a lot of this show was going to be on high wire, you know, like they'd be doing all these stunts, you know, going from building to building, you know, with you know,
for sure,
more zip lines.
Yeah, lots of zip lines. I was expecting zip lines. I was expecting what do you call those? Like with at a ski resort, you know, they have the
lifts. Like the little ski lifts.
Like I was expecting lifts. I was expecting, some kind of like makeshift subway system in the sky.
Yeah.
And instead, we get basically 2 scenes of that. One, where the stretch of zip line is simply cut, quite easily by the Croat. And then the second one, from the second episode with Negan and Maggie, traversing the zip line. But then we never get that again. So
right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say that this show is a huge disappointment, but so far it's a disappointment.
Yeah.
It's not it started pretty good, and then it's just kind of
Yeah. And I mean, you think about in the early days when we had those scenes in downtown Atlanta, even in the quiet times, there was still walkers wandering around. And it just seemed like that they had to turn one loose for the Croat to run over at that last scene when he was driving. That, they were standing around at the little boatyard thing when Ginny said what she said, and there were no walkers. It's just like, where are they? Where did they go? Are they all uptown at Starbucks? Just not the huge hordes of walkers that I expected to see.
They're all in the Lincoln Tunnel.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. It's that, or like they could have. That's the thing. It's like I feel like we're getting back into fear territory in the part of where they just kept. They don't explain things like that. They're just like it. Just like they could easily like it just said like, oh yeah, there was we had a mass like cleaning whatever with some contraption the Croat made, or just something real quick to be like, okay, that's why it's like we saw that car thing that was like basically like the Pied Piper, but we saw it basically just a couple times leading them into the arena. But they could easily says like, even from the New Yorkers that were just like, oh, that's the Croat's like little, like he uses that to basically take walkers and put them where he wants to, like, trap us or, whatever. And then it would have made sense. But instead it never was mentioned again. And it was like, okay.
The same thing that you and I have said on several occasions, Kyle. All it would take is one throwaway line.
Right.
And we would be happier with it because it would make more sense. Even if they said, oh, we drove the ice cream truck down to the Battery. Yeah. So all the zombies were like moving south, or if we at least saw a few little packs moving around.
Right.
But for the most part, after that one big cluster, we really didn't, even past the stadium, we really didn't see any big herds of zombies.
Nope. All right.
Anyways.
I think that's it for our weak sauce.
Yep.
So let's move on to our what sauce.
What?
Well, we have one big what sauce from Ivan from Minnesota, and Ivan says, what's the point of this series? Maggie and Negan seem to have come to an understanding at the end of the main show. Now they just bring it back up, and this story was just bland for me. If you want to bring back old Negan, why not just do a Saviors spinoff and let us see how it started? Simon already came back. I just want to see them get to the point of CRM Rick and these variants, and this show didn't do any of those. I'm tired of these side stories and them dragging it out. I love The Walking Dead, but at some point you have to give fans the conclusion they deserve after 10 plus years of watching. I'm losing interest, and the quality just isn't as good as it could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my take on it is that they had, if Eli Jorne, had a pitch meeting with AMC and Gimple, and maybe Kirkman, I don't know, about like a series idea that he had, it's like, oh, well, let's make Maggie and Negan go to New York City. Mm-hmm. And, oh, that sounds interesting. That's a good, we'll get 6 episodes for that. We'll sign up. And, getting, AMC wants to stay in the Jeffrey Dean Morgan business and the Lauren Cohan business, and certainly the Negan and Maggie business. So for them to do a show based on those 2 characters, I totally see it. But it's just kind of like there was like a morsel of a story, but not the rest of the whole story there. Like, just like they had, the teaser and nothing more than that. Just let's take these 2 characters and throw them in the New York City, and that's done. Like, I mean, to me, I think it would have been a cooler season if they had dealt with not Maggie's wife, Negan's wife, and not had her be an off camera character.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll see her in season 2, maybe, but just to throw her off in Missouri, let's put her in a state that we haven't mentioned before. And it's the show me state, so I think they should show her. I just think that it was an opportunity that was missing, and to that, I will say, since they used, and I don't know who the actress was, my what sauce is when I saw her, I thought, man, this would have been so much more interesting if Michelle Hurd had played that character and not the bartender.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had suddenly seen Michelle Hurd here, I would be that much more excited about this show. Knowing that we would be seeing her in season 2, but whoever, I don't know who that actress was. Maybe she's been in several things, but she's no one that I know. And when I compare the role that Michelle Hurd had versus the mayor, I think the mayor would have been a much more interesting character for her to play.
Yeah, but I don't think they could afford her.
They probably couldn't afford her, but still, I would have liked to have seen that. So
yeah,
well, she was on screen less time than Michelle Hurd was. So.
Right, but if they do, if she shows up in season 2, she may get more screen time. So
I would think she most certainly would be on screen more. Like I could see that actress being even a regular in season 2, if not like
my thing is, I think this was Michelle Hurd's opportunity to play a part in The Walking Dead, and it fit her time frame and it fit their budget.
Yeah, and and that if that's all it was, then that's fine. And maybe them putting a person of a similar ethnic background in there. I mean, maybe they could make it so that that's Michelle Hurd's sister or something, but yeah, I know.
That's almost a plot complication bridge too far, sir.
It is. But anyway, there is no point other than when I saw that character, I thought, oh, that could have been Michelle Hurd. And that's it. But, and what I would have normally said here in my what sauce, I decided to put in another sauce. So we'll move on to that. All right, LT, what do you have for your what sauce?
I just felt like that from what we were given in the beginning, what we were led up to believe, that really the season peaked at episode 2.
Yes, and that was what I was alluding to before when I said something like you were gonna talk about this in your
that basically things went off the rail the further along we got, and what we ended up with to me felt like a CW production of Game of Thrones and the zombie apocalypse. And, I kind of see where they're going, but the fact that I understand sort of what the plot they're going for and the execution of it was just not there.
It's not there. No.
And like I said, I went into it with fairly high expectations. I was kind of excited. And really, the first 2 episodes, to me, were better than the next 4.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
And
totally agree.
It just seems like the more it went on, the worse it got.
Yeah.
And the fact that, as I sort of said before, kind of expecting a resolution at the end of this, and we basically this was just the prologue for next season, basically.
Yeah.
Just setting all the pieces on the table. I just am feeling kind of let down. I agree with Ivan's sentiments. And my point is, I'm going, come on, guys, you could do better than this. Because there are parts of it that I feel like that, they basically stole the crib notes or took pictures of the whiteboard from the other show's writer rooms and kind of said, oh, we can use that. And that sounds like a good idea. And this will work. And, we'll just scratch this name out and write this name in. And maybe I'm just jaded by this point, and, I'm expecting something new out of the ZA that, they're not prepared to give me.
I mean, my take on it is that, like I said, they had this morsel of a good idea, but either budget or story, they just couldn't go with it. And it just fizzled out. And, in ways that I would say, funny thing is, like, if I had to compare season to season, show to show, which I do all the time, it's just a thing I do. I would say that season 1 of World Beyond was less entertaining than this. Yes. I did not like that show in season 1. I liked it a lot more in season 2, but going into it, I seem to remember that I liked the last episode of season 1 of World Beyond a lot better than the 9 prior to, right? The first 9. So it had potential going into that second season. This one, I'm just like, I don't really care. It's and are we going to cover it? Yeah, probably we will. But it's just, it's like we're watching this based on the potential of the actors and not much more than that.
Yeah.
Well, and you could make the argument, how long have we strung along in fear for the same reasons?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And I don't think I want to, put money on the table to say which one I like better, because I think I like the characters in this better.
Yeah.
But I still
except
feel like,
except for the Doma,
except for the Doma.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like her. I just don't understand
her.
Why she's doing what she's doing. But could they pull it out? Maybe.
I think that there's a good chance that they will, but
do I think they will now? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just that whenever you have something that has a great deal of potential in the beginning and you kind of see where they initially start and you get excited and then it's like, puh.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I will say about, and I think we can say this all the way through, with fear, right? We've had this show where we go, so many times it's disappointed us.
Yeah.
But it hasn't disappointed us all the way through. It hasn't been consistently disappointing. There have been parts of it that have been really good. that always that's it's there for us to, I don't know, kind of like get our expectations up. But usually, like, even though we won't be too positive on a season, when they end the season and they're going into, you know, things for the next season, it looks, that could work out. And we don't, you know, completely shut our opinions down on the show. It's like, well, you know, okay, this might be interesting.
Right.
Mind you, most of the seasons we've gotten into that, and we end up at the, you know, in the middle point where it's kind of like, oh, this hasn't been very good after all. Or it started off good and it's just not as good. But at least there's been the potential there. And coming to this, I would say this is the first time that I'm going into a season of, I think, of any of the iterations of The Walking Dead, where I'm saying, well, it's the end of the season. I'm not really all that excited about the next season. Like, even season 8, going from season 7 to season 8 of Fear, there was the potential that it might be all right. And, but, you know, it hasn't really turned out that way. But, but at least there was the potential. But this one, I ho hum is all I have to say. Ho hum.
Yeah. And I guess the thing with Fear is we had a product that we knew sort of what to expect.
Yeah.
So we were able to temper our expectations going into it as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, my point is still, we didn't really have any expectations other than what we were spun in the beginning. And to me, it hurts more when you have more perceived potential that does not work out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a sauce that we sometimes bring up. Mm-hmm. It was one that I didn't want to do initially, but we have our what the hell or oh hell no sauce.
Okay.
Oh, hell no.
And this is where I had to say the fight again. Okay. Oh, hell no. Like, I don't get this at all. Like, if she makes a deal with the Croat, Herschel for Negan, wouldn't she, like, jeopardize that deal by trying to kill him?
Yeah.
Hello? So, what is she doing and why? And this makes no sense at all. When you think about this in this context, that fight makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
It's almost like it was like out of place. Like that should have been something that happened like in the beginning, because we knew like she came off immediately like mad at him.
But Kyle, even in the beginning, the whole point is she trades Negan for Herschel. That's what we were led to believe. And then this entire time, every time she gets an opportunity, she tries to kill Negan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so how much are you worried about your kid there, Mother of the Year?
Yeah. and that I bring up in the next sauce, because that's what I don't get. And essentially Herschel calls her out on this.
Yeah.
Because essentially that's what it is, you know? Okay, I'll say it here. I mean, that is essentially what it is. She cares more about killing Negan than she does her own goddamn son. And it's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Obviously, she's not kidding. This is what she is more intent on killing him than having, you know, a relationship with her son. And clearly, you know, his whole existence has been wrapped around the death of her husband and, you know, I'm going to get you someday. And it didn't seem like at the end of season 11 of The Walking Dead that we were at this point. It seemed like there was a
mutual understanding.
Yeah, there had been sort of a grudging
parlay.
acceptance of how things are.
A ceasing of hostilities. You know, maybe not, you know, she'd never be friends with Negan, but at the same time, you know, she would stop trying to kill him.
Yeah.
And clearly that's not the case. And in fact, it's so goddamn worse that she wants to kill him above getting her son back. And it's like, what the fudgicles? You know, it's like, I just don't get her at all. And I think that, I don't get it.
Well, it's like we said, she keeps running so hot and cold. And it's like, just make up your mind.
I'm reading what you said in the comments here.
Yeah. So my thing is, I watched the after show and I watched all the commentary from, you know, Eli Jorne. And while I like the behind the scenes stuff and I enjoyed it, the more I listened to him, the more I would just like to walk up to him and give him a wedgie.
And by the way, wouldn't you think that he would have been more appropriate to be the showrunner of the Daryl Dixon show, knowing that that's in France, you know? Journée. Anyway, sorry.
Well, with my luck, it's Jornet.
It is Journée. I've heard him say his name. But still,
you know.
And for the record, since most of you have seen my name is not Meloche. Anyway, 2 syllables only, please. Anyway.
I thought it was like Italian Malache.
No, I always tell people, if you are able to pronounce my name with 2 syllables, you've essentially said it correctly. If you say it with more than 2 syllables, you are wrong. Anyway.
But like I said, just to finish up, he just annoyed me. The way he was talking about stuff, and he just seemed perky.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about, you know, little blonde, vapid cheerleader perky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just, the more he talked, the more irritated I got. And I was already irritated because of the show. And so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear tell that, you know, and meanwhile on the convention circuit, Walking Dead showrunner Eli Jorne was attacked and given a wedgie in the middle of the signature line. And I mean, I'm talking about the atomic wedgie where you pull the back of his tighty whities up over the top of his head.
Right.
I mean, go for the full stretch.
I understood that. All right, so let's move on.
Not just a little one where you see the waistband. I'm talking all the way, baby.
All right, play the sad sauce.
Aww.
All right. Kyle, it doesn't look like you have anything sad. And I already said the one thing that I put as a sad sauce, but I moved it up to the oh hell no sauce. But that said, I got a bit of a possible Herschel brainwashing going on there. You know, like you had said, LT, if he joined the gang, you know, clearly the Doma was filling his head full of notions. Although I have to wonder, okay, well, how does that toe fit into things?
But did he even lose a toe?
Oh yeah, didn't you see his foot?
Oh,
yeah,
I missed that.
I believe he missed
when he was
missing
playing
a toe.
the guitar. When he was playing the guitar at the end.
I missed it then. Yeah, I did not see that.
Yes, they showed his foot.
Okay. I was thinking, I'm like, oh, do we even know that? Maybe that was just for Negan to be like, oh, hey, I'm okay. So, well, hey, maybe he was the one that cut it off.
Well, you remember if you're into that sort of thing, the whole deal with like Yakuza families is they're big about taking fingers. So, toes are, far less obvious, but still sort of like a piece of you.
And that was a pinky toe?
It's a pinky toe.
So it's not like
it ain't like it ain't like it would affect his walking or anything. It's not like a big toe.
Right. The other thing I was going to say is, and I put this as sad because since I mentioned Michelle Hurd a couple times tonight, and she was in that first episode, and for those of you that didn't watch Star Trek Picard, you won't understand this one too much, but everyone here has, so I'll say it here. So it reminds me of Raffi's kid. So in other words, his relationship with Maggie is clouded by this obsession to kill Negan, right? Something that she clearly wouldn't let go away. We get the idea that it was always there, even though we thought that maybe it wasn't there, or maybe it festered more after they left the Hilltop 1.0, or what have you, like after season 11 of The Walking Dead. I don't know, but clearly I got the same kind of.
Yep. He's sort of a hormonal teenager.
Yeah. But like so the character I'm talking about, so those of you that didn't watch Star Trek Picard, you won't get this, but I felt for the kid in Star Trek Picard, and I felt for Herschel here. It's just this obsession that won't go away, that has clearly affected her relationship with him, in that it's kind of like, well, whenever I look at you, son, I think of my husband. And whenever I think of my husband, I think of Negan. Whenever I think of Negan, I think of killing Negan. So it's like every time she sees him, she's thinking of killing Negan. And clearly it seems that this has been going on for a long time. And what I said in the comments, just for those of you that have seen the show, and sorry for those that haven't, replace the synth / Romulan conspiracy with Negan, and you basically have the same character, just younger. So in the case of Raffi's son, Gabe was had a Romulan pregnant wife, and that was it. But aside from that, it sounded like the exact same character, just beat for beat, exactly the same. Anyway,
yeah. Well, my take was just like, this is Herschel going to the dark side. If you're a longtime fan and you loved Glenn and Maggie, then it's like, I can't help but having Obi-Wan yelling in the back of my head, "You were the chosen one." But the fact that, with teen angst and all the stuff that you laid out, that, he's pissed off at his mom because his mom can't get over the guy that killed his dad, who, ostensibly he never really knew except for stories from his mom.
Yeah.
And so he's at the right age. This is, he's angsty and he's pissed off and he's looking for somebody who's going to accept him. And so, he's becoming Darth Herschel.
But at the same time, you have to look at the evidence here and say, the kid's got a point.
Well, exactly. Nobody ever said that the villain didn't have motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And you've already beat that horse, but I'm going to take another couple of swings at it. It's just the fact that, Maggie just can't let it go. We thought she let it go. We thought she had finally gotten some peace with it. But no, Maggie just can't let it go.
No.
And she's going to, I'd even go a step further, Brian. I'm starting to think that she's starting to get some Ahab and Moby Dick going.
I was thinking the same thing, actually.
She is so obsessed with killing Negan. And, you had that scene where she was reliving the scene in the circle again. And I don't know, even as time has gone by, it seems like it's not gotten any better. That at some point we thought that, she had kind of made peace with that part of her life, but apparently not, because they want to keep milking that cow.
Yeah.
And it's just to the point where, and Negan, even after the fight, Negan sees what's going on. He's like, I thought this was done, but I guess it's not. I guess you're just going to hate me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's sad to me because there's so many other things that I would like to have Maggie's character defined by.
Mm-hmm.
But now, like I said, she's turned into Captain Ahab.
Yeah.
Just that her obsession to kill Negan has run off her son, who is the last link to Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
And she's obviously not had the best judgment because, like I said in one of the previous episodes, her batting average for being in charge of communities ain't that great at this point.
No.
So it's just sad that this is where we've ended up. And I'm not saying that to bash Maggie because I still like her character, but I'm just not a fan of what the writers have been doing to her in this last iteration.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, they could have even done something with Maggie, going to, what was her name? The ones that gave her the blueprints and
Georgie's
people. Georgie. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We never see her come up again. And to me, that was a potential that they could have done something with. And, even in this series.
Well, didn't they sort of intimate that when she was gone, when she was off making Whiskey Cavalier and Maggie was gone, and when she came back, that something bad had happened in Georgie land is why she came back?
I don't
know. Maybe
somehow my memory is telling me that there was some other death and destruction, something bad happened. That's why she came back story.
Well, there clearly was another settlement that she was with, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
Whether or not that was Georgie's settlement. I mean,
well, anyway.
Yeah. Maybe it was, maybe it was not. I don't know.
You're right in the fact that there is another potential that goes untapped there.
Mm. All right. Well, let's move on. We've got voicemail. So let's open our feedback section.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
And right before we started, we got, and I'm going to just say this in case I can't correct this in time, but I think I will. For some reason, normally, when you leave a voicemail with our voicemail line, it goes to Google Voice, and you leave a voicemail with Google Voice. Well, for some reason, it went to my voicemail, and not even Google Voice, but my own voicemail on my provider. So I don't know why it rang over. It literally called my number, forwarded the number to me. And that's why I got a call from Dieta twice and not realizing what was going on. So anyway, I'm just going to play it, but for some reason it didn't go through properly, but we got it. And that's the main thing. So let's start with that.
Okay, hi, this is Deanna from Detroit, and I was calling to leave feedback for the Walking Dead talk through Dead City version. I'm not sure, Brian, it's your voicemail, so I'm just gonna leave the message on your voicemail. I don't know, it doesn't say the talk through thing anymore, but so I'm late with the feedback. I don't have time to type, unfortunately, and I'm still haven't caught up on the podcasts so I can get the responses because I have so many questions. But let's just go with this feedback for this episode, the last episode. Dead City just kind of left me dead. Because I'm still trying to figure out, I guess, like I said, I haven't heard the responses, so maybe I got some answers from, my questions. But they put Maggie and Negan together. Okay, and my rating going to be 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 Maggie Negan split screens. That's what I got to say. But so they put them together as well. When I started watching, it looked like they were friends. We know they were together from the last episode of the Walking Dead. Not saying they was friends, but they were cordial and working with each other. Good. But now they got them together. They're working together, and I guess the ultimate goal was to get Herschel back from the Croat. Because I found out the Crow was an old acquaintance of Negan when he was a savior. So I don't know what this obsession with this Croat is. I mean, the substance the Croat has with Negan. I'm not understanding that. It's weird. And then they added some weird lady into the mix. And it just all got so weird. But I guess it looks like they may be facing off, Negan and Maggie. And the Croat wants Negan to come join, I guess, the new group, their group with the weird lady. I never got her name. I'm going to say the weird old lady. And they want to take over, is what I'm guessing, and be the new ruler, the survivors of the apocalypse, I guess, and turn Negan back into Negan ways with Lucille, which I don't understand if you want to just do what you've been doing, because apparently whatever the Croat people were doing, or whatever they were calling themselves, was terrorizing groups anyway, or people that, wanted to survive the apocalypse. They were terrorizing and recruiting them. So you were doing it without Negan. I don't understand why you got to have Negan to continue this reign of terror. But anyway, yeah, so that don't make sense. I'm like, I don't know. I guess it's not what I expected this to be. I mean, the fact that he left his wife, to go chase down the man who beat her down, and then somehow, I guess, end up bumping into Maggie. So is the girl really one of the dads that he killed daughter, or is he just saying that to make her mad and run off? That's another question. Still don't understand the significance of the little quiet girl who decided to talk out the blue at this last episode, and Negan in his Negan fashion. Oh, so now you speak. Yeah, now she speaks, but she didn't have nothing to say. She didn't really say nothing. I don't know. So then we got another group with the bounty hunter guy, and he goes back and I guess lies and says he killed Negan because he killed the guys who abused his wife or whatever. I don't know. It's just too much. It's like, now we got all these groups again, and I guess everybody fighting to see who got the power. I don't know. I think it's dumb. I don't really like that kind of sound. It's just like.
And it cuts off there. But we have a second voicemail. This one not quite as long as the first one, but here we go.
Okay, this is Deanna from Detroit with part 2 of her feedback. So yeah, I was just saying it was reminding me of the Fear the Walking Dead. We got all these groups trying to be in charge and run everybody. I don't know. I'm kind of over that though. Basically, I kind of was hoping this would, I guess, take us back to like The Walking Dead, like the beginning of Fear the Walking Dead, when it was about more or less survival and, I don't know, coming together. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. But anyway, so yeah, now we got the bounty hunter guy in another group, and I guess they're gonna threaten him with his kids if, I guess, to find out if he actually killed Negan, which is, we know they're gonna find out he didn't. Which I don't know how they're gonna know, because it looked like he went and took the boat back across to the mainland instead of on the island or wherever they was, New York. I don't know. So I don't know where they're located. But wherever it is, it's far from there. So how are they going to find out that Negan's still alive? I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, back to the Croat and all the other people. Let's see, was there anything awesome about this episode? I guess the Negan and Maggie fight scene was kind of awesome. You know, I don't know. I guess he realized he was betraying him actually to get her son. But I think he wanted to do it because he wanted her to get her son back. You know, and kind of felt guilty with what he did with Glenn and all that, but whatever. So that's just my opinion. But I guess that was kind of awesome. I mean, I hate they were fighting. I don't know the seed purpose. But why is Herschel missing the toe? So they left that part out. I don't know. Did I miss that? Like, so the lady, the crazy old lady, then cut the boy toe off for what? You cutting toes off? Oh my gosh. I was like, I didn't go give it to Negan. Like, what's that supposed to make him do? Like, was he supposed to be? I thought Negan was going to get mad and just beat the old lady up, which he could have did because she is an old lady. But anyway, you know, I thought he was going to go into Negan mode and just go crazy like he did on that guy that he bled out over the balcony and whatnot. But he didn't. So I don't know. They leave us, you know, like I said, with the split screen, and we trying to, I guess, for the next season. But let's see, what else? That was the only thing awesome. I don't know. Like I said, it still left a lot of stuff up in the air. And where's Maggie and Herschel at? And why are he so I mean, I guess I kind of think he kind of angst about, I don't know. He's got a lot of angst going on. I guess he mad at his mom because she's still, I don't know. I didn't get that either. I think I got to rewatch it again, maybe. But anyway, yeah, he's very angry at his mom, and I don't know. Let's see, what else? Oh, gosh, I can't think of anything else, guys. But, hey, everybody, Kyle, Brian, I already spoke to you, LT, and Renee, and Glennis, and all the other people that comment. I can't remember your names. I'm sorry, guys. But, hey, everybody, just wanted to get in some feedback real quick because this is the last episode, and I didn't have time to type because I forgot. But love you guys. Look forward to listening and catching up. I'm going to catch up on the podcast. I promise. Bye.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dieta. It was nice to talk to you today, actually, because of the weird thing that happened with the voicemails. It went to me. So I picked up the phone thinking it was a phone call for me. And anyway, because it seems to be forwarding instead of doing what it should be doing. So I'll see if I can fix that after. Because our Star Trek podcast could potentially be affected by that as well. But in any case, thank you so much, Dieta. It's good to get your feedback. And like I said to her, we haven't been hearing from Renee. So if you got a long voicemail, go right at it. I told her. So anyway,
she pretty much hit the same spots where I'm like, you're just as much as confused as you.
Yeah, she pretty much did. And the one thing she mentioned almost right off the top is something we didn't mention at all. That's split screen.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, the funny thing is I looked at that. I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's unusual. And what are they trying to tell us here? I guess they trying to tell us that they're two sides of the same coin, or I don't know, but
I don't know.
We just thought it would look cool since they're the two protagonists of the series.
It did look kind of cool, but you know, not that cool. That's my take.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just the whole Doma, weird old lady indeed. Yes. The whole thing is weird. So,
yep. And
is the intention there to rule Manhattan or the whole world? I think it's to rule the area, you know, maybe starting with Manhattan, but you know, that's what it seemed like.
Right.
I guess the Dama, like the Croat probably doesn't have the personality that, you know, like she would want a flair for drama, and that's probably why she would be interested in Negan. But I don't know. The whole thing's weird. It's just strange. So, yeah. And the girl being, you know, one of the dead guy's daughters. I believe that that's the case, but and yeah, I had kind of like oh, now you finally speak and you really don't have anything great to say. So great, in fact, that Negan didn't really even give her a chance to say anything.
It's true.
You know, so her talking about like, you know, these groups vying for power. I'm kind of over it too. I would kind of like to get it back to more survival kind of thing. And I don't know what we're going to see with the Daryl Dixon thing. Or for that matter, Rick and Michonne. I think Rick and Michonne will probably be, you know, Rick and Michonne toppling down another regime. But we shall see, you know. And you liked the fight scene more than we did, you know, especially me. I didn't like the fight scene at all. And why is he missing a toe? I mean, other than, is she a toe collector? Maggie and Herschel are back at Hilltop 2.0. So they're not at New Babylon. They're wherever the Hilltop is now. So that's, and the fact that it's a new place, that's because they shot it in a different place. So they had to move.
Indeed. They didn't have the lease for Hilltop 1.0.
Yeah. Because reasons. That's essentially why, but you know. All right. So that's it for your voicemail. Thank you so much, Tieta. It's great to hear from you again. And
yes,
let's move on. We've got Ivan from Minnesota. Who wants to take that one?
I will take that one.
Okay.
All right. Ivan from Minnesota, he said, this spinoff really felt kind of pointless unless something new comes out of Negan and Maggie's relationship. The characters they brought in besides the Croat were pretty boring, and besides a few cool moments, this show wasn't that exciting. Especially the final 2 episodes, which just drug out, and we didn't get much action at all. AMC, please figure out how you're going to wrap this up, because it's starting to feel like a zombie soap opera with no real end in sight, and your spinoffs stink for the most part. This one was okay, but we need to get to the point. Great work on the pod, and I'm more excited for Daryl and the ones who live than this one. Hopefully they are better. Thank you, Ivan. And I think he kind of does hit a point about this. I think AMC has it, or Gimple or whatever. They want to keep this basically The Walking Dead going. And so they're creating.
They want to keep the golden goose laying eggs.
Yeah, but that's where it is kind of like I'm getting a little worried, because at some point it is a soap opera, but this one's not a really good soap opera. So it's making it. If it wasn't for our characters that we know and the actors, I think if it was all new, and it was like this, we probably would start losing a lot more interest and probably not covering some shows.
Mm.
So I feel your pain, Ivan.
Yeah. And, you know, like we know some of the other podcasts out there are in that boat where they have stopped covering the shows, and, you know, we are one of them that has continued going on, but, you know.
Yeah, several of them have taken a hard pass on some of the new shows.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like it's time for Mr. Right Under the Wire, Mike from Asheville. And he starts off by saying, crap, totally lost track of time. There were good parts of this episode, but overall, it wasn't great. I'm trying to be excited for Daryl, but the way all these shows are going, it's hard to have hope. The writing just isn't there anymore. They need to get creative and go crazy. Season 2 of Dead City needs to go dark. If they're building up to a war, give us violence and let that true Negan come out. He says, I'm thrilled that this episode addressed Maggie's obsession with Negan. It ruined her relationship with Herschel. And quite frankly, it ruined this show. Anyway, thank you guys for still covering the show. Love listening. Can't wait until September to hear you again.
Well, and hopefully it will be better. Glynis from Toronto is our last bit of feedback, and she says, the Dama looks as if she got close to Herschel in the way Negan got close to Carl. I think that's a good way to put it. Mm-hmm. Though I don't quite understand that Herschel feels safer with the Dama even after he had his toe cut off. That is a good point. Yeah, I mean, that's why I got the whole brainwash kind of vibe from him. So the crowd will soon retaliate for being dismissed so quickly by the Dama, and given the cold shoulder when he delivered Negan to the Dama, he didn't even get a pat on the back or a simple thank you. That slight will fester in the Croat and burst open in season 2. Well, you know what? I hope you're right, Glynis. I really do. You know, like, I got the whole, you know, the Croat isn't appreciated. You know, I got that from last week as well. So I don't know where they're going to go with this, and I don't know how he's going to react to it, but yeah, I don't like, I just don't understand what the necessity was of creating her character in the first place. I just don't understand it.
Right. But it does feel like, and I think you might have kind of maybe mentioned it in, you know, before in previous episodes. But it's like the Croat, like the way he kind of acts around her. It's almost like he's like a sick puppy love, you know, where he like,
and it seems like that's what he has for Negan too. He has that kind of like he even said it in you know, it's like a mommy and daddy meeting for the first time or something. And it seems that way. Like he's got that mommy, you know, the Dama is mommy and Negan is daddy. And, you know, he's like bringing them together, you know, and he can be the prince, you know, or something.
Right.
It's just,
I'm telling you, man, he's still got that Renfield toady going on.
Yeah. And I don't know where they're going to go with that. Like, if you're thinking, Glynis, that he's going to explode, perhaps, but I kind of got the vibe of, I don't know. Like, he could either be, well, you know, how dare you not appreciate me, and kind of like, you know, go flying off and, you know, doing whatever and maybe teaming up with Negan. But I mean, that's not really set up well either. You know?
I'm getting more that he's going to be the toady in the background, backstabbity kind of person.
Yeah, like the little finger kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be right about that. I mean, not exactly Littlefinger, but more like
once again, keeping with our CW Game of Thrones vibe.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I wouldn't say he's Littlefinger, because Littlefinger had more of he was pulling more of the strings, I think. Yeah. Whereas, you know, if anything, she's more of a Littlefinger than he is. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I can see that. The Dama has a bargaining chip or toe to keep Negan in check. I suppose Negan will now have to toe the line. Yes, I will have to say. So Ginny and Herschel have something in common: losing both their fathers because of Negan. Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I kind of wondered, is that what another thing that they may set together is basically Ginny and Herschel sitting in a tree, you know, at some point?
Their eyes meet across the room and the violins begin to swell in the background. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
You see the little birds and the twinkle in her eye.
Maggie has a heart after all. She didn't destroy Ginny's dino, but gave it back to her when Ginny was sleeping. Well, okay, that was kind of an awe moment. Yeah. So I'll grant that as a post-dated awe sauce.
Yeah, enough of an awe, I didn't catch it.
So Doma Smo means we are home in Croatian. So at the end of the episode, all the characters were home, except maybe Negan. But the Croats seemed to think he had done Negan a favor and brought Negan home. But home for some did not feel like home, especially Herschel and Maggie having a very strained relationship with Herschel. And Herschel saying that very hurtful statement that he felt safer with the Dama and the Croat than home with Maggie. Teenagers. Smiley face. Yes, indeed. All right, so that's it for our feedback section. Does anyone have anything additional they want to add? Or nope. All right, so let's move on to our news, ratings, and info.
There's a couple weird stories on the news.
All right, well, we got ratings for The Walking Dead Dead City. It got a 0.12 in the 18 to 49 segment with 618,000 viewers. That is down 83,000 from last week, which got the exact same rating, but 701,000 viewers. And we see a largely declining ratings chart. We didn't chart them like I normally do, but if I was to chart them, looking at the TV series finale link there, you can see that the trend is down from the start of the season to the end. In terms of news, I mean, the main thing I guess that we got a name for the Rick and Michonne show. It is called, and we got a teaser for it. And it's called The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. And of course, that was based on something Rick said. I want to say season 5.
I think it was season 5. And then, then Michonne says it at one point later on. But yeah, they wanted to go with that theme or that phrase.
Yeah. And beyond that, I mean, did we get another trailer for Daryl Dixon, or was it anything new? We got a date, I know.
Yeah. I don't know if it was new from, I think
it might have been. I think the Comic-Con trailer was a little bit longer and a little bit different than the one we had before.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know that the Comic-Con trailer for Rick and Michonne was a little bit longer than the one they showed on the TV, but
yeah, normally on Comic-Con weekend, I'm watching that stuff very closely, but unfortunately I had to work some long shifts all weekend long, so I didn't pay attention to really any of it except for you guys talking incessantly on our little chat thread. And I just finally was like, I can't follow this anymore. I'll catch up later. And that's literally what I had to do. I couldn't, my phone, I had to put on mute at one point because it kept on beep, beep, beep every 5 minutes. But anyway, yeah, because there was also a lot of Star Trek news as well this past week. So I don't know. Did you guys have any impressions or anything about the trailer, or
Well, it seems like just from the Daryl one, it looked like several of the things. It's kind of like somebody said earlier that I'm really hoping that they don't give us all the good cinematics and the trailers and there's nothing left later. Mm-hmm. It seemed like, as I've said before, there's a lot of spinning drone shots with Daryl walking.
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff they showed looked, kind of gothy, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So the tone was a little bit different. So I'm just trying to remain hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked a little, like gothy. And there's like the scene where like these like nun looking people. So it's almost like a cult or cultish. So it's like, and there's like a younger little girl that seems to, be friends, or Daryl befriends her, and then she gets in trouble at some point, so I don't know. I think you're right, LT. I hope that what they're showing us in these trailers is not basically what, that's like the best part. And then we end up just
one of those things where when you see the trailer, you've seen the best shots in the movie.
Right. Which we did. We saw that with Death City, which the Walker King, like, I thought that was like, we're going to see like all these crazy things all through every episode. And it was like, oh, we had to wait all the way until episode 5 and the end of it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyways,
Anything else?
No. I
think that's about it.
We didn't really get anything new as far as the parrots are concerned. The data that we have there, that's taken from last week. The only thing that's new is that it is up 260.2%, and it is still the number one hot show, like in terms of trending on in the US. So in other words, it's not the hottest show, but it's the hottest, like it's got the highest trend, I guess you could say. So, going from a dead stop to where it's at now, it's doing okay, but it wouldn't be doing enough to be in the top 10 of digital originals or cable originals. And I guess this would be technically a cable original. So it's not, it's not enough to chart, but it's doing okay. It got a 21.7 times the demand of an average show. So that's the main thing. And I had checked this. I don't remember when I got this particular graph, this particular screen capture, but it's the same right now as it was. So,
okay.
Yeah. And I didn't check The Walking Dead, but I'll go ahead and check The Walking Dead because it's literally just, I remove a few characters from the URL. So, the regular URL is actually higher at this point. It is at 49 times the demand of an average show, up 8.9% over the last 30 days. So it is doing quite well. We can't graph it to see where it is compared to other shows because, unfortunately, for some stupid reason, parrots have not done their little weekly assessment in over a month. The similar kind of thing happened last year, I remember. So I guess people are on vacation, so they don't do all of their things that they do while they're on the summer. But the thing is, the thing I noticed is they did have a lot more things showing up in there. So they had a breakout shows article, and unfortunately, that is something that's only available to people that pay. So you only get like the first paragraph of it, but they don't have anything to say anything about TV series demand across all TV platforms for the US, anything past the 16th of June. So sorry, but can't report it if they don't have it. Indeed. That's it.
All right.
So LT, why don't you tell us how to contact us?
We want to encourage you to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Walking Dead TTM. To submit your theories and feedback, most people post in the designated episode thread in our Facebook group. That's facebook.com/groups/WalkingDeadTTM. You can send us email. That's walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com. You can also use the feedback forum on our webpage. That's talkthroughmedia.com/feedback. If you'd like to leave us voicemail, you can call area code 216-232-6146. Remember that all of our new episodes are out on YouTube. Just search for Talk Through Media and remember to subscribe and click that bell to get notified when we have new videos. We also want you to like and review the Talk Through Media Facebook page at facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. Of course, the absolute best way you can support us is through our Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/walkingdeadtalkthrough. And we'd like to thank all of our Patreon supporters: Renee Murray, Deetta Patterson, Mike Rollo, me, and Kyle McAdams.
Yay!
Remember that Deetta, Renee, Mike, Kyle, and LT will both be getting an early version of the episode this week.
I already got it.
So did I. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. While you're there, give us a rating or a review. You can also leave us a review at podchaser.com. You can rate individual episodes or the whole podcast. And remember to share our posts on Facebook and Twitter when we post them, or tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to get us new listeners.
So, Brian, what else can be listened to on our network?
Well, unfortunately, we are still behind. I am guilty of that, but we are currently working on the Star Trek Strange New Worlds talk through. We have released episodes for the first 3 episodes of season 2. We have recorded episodes 4 and 5. We have to record season 6, or episodes 6, and a very special episode 7 with the crossover episode.
The thanks Paramount.
Yes.
Giving us 2 within 3 days of each other.
Yeah, and they have also decided that for whatever reason they have moved the season up a week. So instead of things ending in August, now they're ending in July. So they'll be, or actually no, I guess they're still ending in August, aren't they? But
yeah.
But they're ending a week earlier than they were. So yes. But so that's going on. We'll be covering those 2 episodes, possibly recording both tomorrow. We'll see if we can do it, but we'll see. Certainly we'll be recording one, I think, right, LT?
Yep.
Yeah. So besides that, we of course have the Rebinged Deep Space Nine podcast going on. James and Kim are covering the last season of Deep Space Nine, and we'll be getting to Voyager probably come the fall sometime. And that's it, besides us continuing with The Walking Dead talk through and getting to the Daryl Dixon show next.
Yep.
So,
and theoretically, whenever they let Lower Decks out.
Yes, we'll be covering Lower Decks. That is being released. Season 4 begins September 7th. So it's a couple of weeks later than it was in previous. Well, I guess it's a week later than previous, or 2 weeks later than previous. But it's around the same time frame as normal. But it's September 7th that will be coming out. So yes, we'll be covering Lower Decks after Strange New Worlds, and we'll get the episodes out and finally in time. And we still have to cover season 3 of Lower Decks too, but we'll see about that. Let's just try to stay current for now. It's hard enough to stay current, so we'll just worry about staying current. But we'll get to those eventually, hopefully. That's it.
All right. All right. Well, then, since obviously this was the end of season 1 of Dead City, we do have The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon season 1 episode 1, which premieres on September 10th, 2023. So coming up soon. Written by David Zabel, but that's pretty much all the information we have.
Is it Zabel or is it Zabel? I think it's Zabel.
Yeah. And then
it's Kyle.
Yes, it's my Kyle on phonics. Fear the Walking Dead, then season 8, episode 7, which we don't have any info on. It does premieres on October 22nd after Daryl Dixon ends, and then it ends on November 26th. So then we hear from the Rick and Michonne, The Ones Who Live, season 1, episode 1, and all they've said was premieres in 2024. So I'm wondering when you think that's going to come out. It'd be February, like
I would guess February. I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on the strikes, I think, but assuming
I guess that's true.
That if they aren't affected by the strikes, or if they're, then I would say it could be later, but I would say usually they wouldn't release anything during January because of football and whatnot. They would release it like the week after the Super Bowl. So, yeah. So that's when I would expect it, but I think that they didn't release it or release the date because of strikes.
Okay.
So it could be later.
That makes sense, yeah. All right. Well, you want to take it out?
So until next time, I'm Brian.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm LT.
And this is The Walking Dead Talk Through. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.